Hello, Chris England here, and once again, I'm a little bit later than I normally would like to be, but I tried recording last night on this banner, and it did not go well. So we're going to go ahead and restart. So this is our current seasonal banner, the Fall banner. And we start with the Starry Seer. We have female Corrin, a blue dragon infantry, drawn this time by Yoshiro Ambe and voiced by Satomi Satou. Probably some of the better roles that I know of Miss Satou are Rune from Azur Lane, Wendy Marvel from Fairy Tail, and then the let's see, I believe it's the ruler of Shiba, the caster from Fate Grand Order. Probably a lesser known one is Alphen Reyes Arnor from Legend of Heroic. I think this time I actually feel like talking about the costume, since I actually love the design of the stitching and also the fraying on her coat, the starry skyscape in her hat, as well as the same kind of purple diamond, as well as stitch design on her hat, the spider web design on her cloak, and then the little lantern, as well as the kind of Halloween-ish wreath surrounding her dragonstone. So, and of course the candy. This is our essential Halloween banner. I don't know if it's going to be the case more so, but this is a nice costume. So, looking at her right now, I can obviously see that she's going to be the higher priority for the non-special, as she is currently one of the first characters that I know of that has only tier 4 skills. None of her skills are PRFs or tier 3 limits. So we first also have the joint drive attack. We have the, I believe it's Dragon's Wrath. So during combat, the first attack that she takes is reduced by 25%. And then if her attack is higher than the foe's magic or resistance, she deals an additional 25% of her attack minus the foe's resistance as additional damage. We also do see that she has the second iteration of finish, this time attack and speed. So if she's within 3 spaces of an ally, she gets attack speed plus 7. And if she has the ability to, if she's either fired off her special or her special is ready to fire off, she deals an additional 5 damage, and after dealing damage, she recovers 7 HP. We're also seeing another case where she's getting her skill from her legendary form, the Negating Fang. So a reduction from a foe's attack by 30%, and then if it triggers, her next attack deals additional damage equal to 30% of her own attack. And then her weapon is, of course, the Moonlit Stone. So adaptive damage, cooldown count -1. If she's attacked by the foe, if she has a special that will trigger on foe's attack at the start of the first turn, she gets -2 cooldown count. And then if she's attacked by a foe or at the start of combat, the foe has 75% or more remaining HP. During combat, she gets Spectrum plus 5. She gets cooldown count +1 per attack, and the foe gets cooldown count -1 per attack. And then if her special triggers under the same condition of the first one, the damage gets reduced further by 8. Wow. Just wow. That's a very impressive skill set. So ignoring what we have here, we have the just adaptive damage, we have slaying, we have the turn 1 hardy fighter effect, and then we have in her battle conditions, we have the essentially what is considered a special fighter. And then also we have a little bit of hardy fighter as well. So she's getting skills that are similar to what armor units are exclusive to. I think in this case it's special, so it's a combination of special and hardy fighter. I'm also quite impressed that they're deciding to start giving units full-on kits, not just like 1 or 2 tier 4s and then like a PRF or a tier 3. Or possibly even a blank. This is the first time that I remember seeing that we actually have had a full-on tier 4 set of skills. Now, of course, this is going to make inheriting from her harder, since there are currently one skill that's only available on her, one skill that is technically available on other units, but it is a 5-star lock. The only thing that's really easy to attain is the joint drive attack. I can't really suggest anything for swapping. Maybe something like pivot to get her into better positionings. But this is probably one of the better units on the banner, and I don't think that better necessarily means that, but it is a very impressive kit. Reducing 17 damage from her skill down to 1. Next up, we have the Celestial Sorcerer. So this is male Kamui. This time he's a green dragon infantry. So I'm pretty sure that all we're really missing from them is red dragons. Because I know that they've had blue. Maybe male is specifically missing both red and colorless, because I know that they gave mostly blue and blue to him. But once again, I'd like to point out the beautiful art done by Argon. Once again, we see the star design not only in his hat, but also in the sleeves of his cloak, as well as the actual cloak himself. We don't see as much of the stitching, but we do see the same kind of fraying on the end of the cloak, as well as the tassels on his cloak as well, and then also the dragonstone hidden in a floating lantern, the little pouch, which I'm assuming is the sweets that he's going to snack on later. And in this picture, I feel like the stitching on the hat is actually a little bit more noticeable, probably because there's less stitching. The stitching on the other parts of the clothes are a little bit less noticeable. So for male Corrin, we do have Nobunaga Shimazaki, who does Kazuha from Genshin Impact, both Arjuna and the male Richiko Fujimaru from Fate Grand Order, Yuno from Black Clover, and then also Aldred or Barbatos from Dragalia Lost. Now this is where we're starting to lead into units that are way more 5-star than 4-star. Back when we first started having, we had the 5-star that was definitely 5-star, like a complete kit, multiple tier 4s, or starting on tier 4. This time what we actually have is instead a grand total of 4 skills, so we're missing a C skill, but we also have 2 skills that are, I would consider them tier 4. I kind of consider any skill, like Distant Counter, I would consider to be a tier 3 skill, just because it's only 1 tier, but it's very expensive. So we have the Distant Stance, we have Moonbow, and then we also have a brand new B skill. This time it's Dragon's Ire 4. So during combat, if unit's HP is at least 25% or more, during combat, the foe gets attack res -4, he gets a guaranteed follow-up, and if he's being attacked, he cannot have his follow-up nullified. So sadly, this means that he is not going to have very good in terms of speed checks, because he's not required to have high speed. But this also is kind of like combining so the guaranteed follow-up, the self-null follow-up, and then also the attack res rain 3 effect, just for himself. His weapon is also kind of like the females, but it's a little bit more defensive. So I see adaptive damage from his Starlight Stone, slaying. I see if foe initiates combat or at the start of combat, if foe's HP is 75% or greater, he gets during combat +6 to attack. The foe gets -6 to attack. The foe gets cooldown charge -1 per attack. And if his attack does damage, even if it's 0, he recovers 7 HP. So this is where the finish portion. So he's not gaining as much of the special fighter or the hardy fighter, as he's not as defensive. But what he does have is a special reduction, where if the opponent can perform a follow-up attack during combat, the first attack's damage is reduced by 75%. So he's going to have very high resistance. So I personally, I kind of would prefer instead maybe Iceberg, and then maybe adding into his slots the warding breath instead, because he is able to deal with foes both near and far from his distant stance ability. For his assist, probably the same as usual, like swap or reposition definitely would work. For the C skill, I probably would go for maybe some kind of like joint drive attack or joint drive res. Maybe joint drive defense as another option, since he is going to be very tanky. The big thing for his skill is that the other thing is that you could probably replace the Moonbow with Noontime, just to keep him above that threshold, just because that 7 HP isn't necessarily going to do enough healing to necessarily keep him above that requirement. The other thing, though, is that even though because he is a green unit, he is going to be very, very weak to legendary Nana. And now we move on to our 4-star this time. And really, we have Naga, this time under the Harvest Divinity as a colorless dragon flyer. This time she's dressed up as a ghost princess, I guess would be the best way to describe it. Very nice in terms of the bandages over her chest, the ghost hidden underneath her hat, the ghost behind her, kind of as an aura for her the astral scarf. And then the dress kind of reminds me of maybe Princess Peach, or maybe the Princess Toadstool after wearing the princess crown. So beautiful work by Hanusu. And then once again, we have Satomi Satou as the voice actor for this round as well. So she's getting double billed. That's, I'd say, very nice thing. One thing I am very surprised about is that they chose a god to be a 4-star special for the banner, when they could have easily chosen one of the Corrins, or they could have chosen maybe Bantu, maybe Mirth, Mirth could. You could say that Mirth could have another round, but in general, I'm very surprised that they decided to pick one of the main mythic gods of Fire Emblem and put her as the demote. So once again, as the demote of the banner, she does not have a fully complete kit anywhere close to it, but she does have the first rendition of Attack Res Catch 3. So this does make attack at least a little bit easier in certain aspects because we already did attack speed on New Year's Liar. So this means that transferring this skill along with something else may actually be pretty easy. If you take like Letitia's full-on kit and do want to get both the tier 4s for a unit, you give someone the catch, you give someone the rouse from Genealogy Hilda, and then just transfer the rest. And if they have the ability to use her Far Trace, they can get Far Trace too. Again, not the best way to do it, but at the same time, the B skill in general has flexibility. We also have Attack Res Rain. So this is going to be her this, if I remember, is her 5-star skill. So this does mean that rain skills are still a 5-star exclusive. She also has Rally Up Attack, and then the Serenity Breath Plus. Of course, we're having adaptive damage, and then if she's attacked or the foe has 75% or more HP, during combat, her foe gets attack res -5 and cannot perform a follow-up attack. So this does mean that she is going to be very easy to beat with both Corrins. At least the male Corrin is going to say no because she can do the on attack. Personally, in terms of what I see here, it's very hard to. The only thing that you could probably work with is maybe having her eat some kind of attack speed res near trace units. She is a range 1. And then having her eat the 4. One suggestion that I would say for the B is because she is going for catch, which actually does sync with her weapon as well. Maybe having some kind of chill would help. And then for her special, because she has the ability to deny follow-ups, she doesn't have very high speed. So maybe something again like Moonbow would probably be a good choice. Iceberg would probably be a good option if you have the ability to give her something that gives her the ability to guarantee her follow-ups. As for her seal, once again, some kind of breath, either warding or steady breath would definitely be good, just because she is going to be trying to be a enemy face tank. The one thing that always bothers me is that it was the same case with Saros, where they just added a hat to the Halloween. So it's I get that this is a game with very limited graphics in general, but I feel like they could have done maybe a little bit more with what it is, not just had the breath spew ghosts. And now onto our duo, which is Strength and Love. We have Duma teaming up with his sister Mila, or at least the sister in some aspects, I guess. So we have 2 pots of stars, one red and one blue. Very interesting choice with him looking oddly enough very dapper with the hat and the cape. No tie, but that's again kind of weird. And then Mila is the one wearing the demon horn. So it feels like a Faustian bargain design with what we have. So we have the illustration by Die Exist as a red breath armor. So armor means that we might have some very interesting skills. For the voices, we have for Duma we have Banjo Ginga. So Senzaemon Nakiri from Food Wars. We have Hosen from Gintama. An odd one that I kind of discovered was Daniel J. Darby from the 3rd season of JoJo's Bizarre Adventures. and then Iata from Grand Blue Fantasy. For Mila, in her case with Yoshiko Sakakibara, it was actually a little bit harder to judge kind of what we had. I think the best one to judge is going to be Haman Karn from the Gundam series. We have Anna from Overwatch, Sesshoin's mother from both Inuyasha and Yashahime, and then Pine from Space Channel 5, a very old one showing that she is a veteran, even if she doesn't have that many noticeable roles from what I could tell. So, unfortunately, we're not given a new kind of B skill specific for armors, but we are given another source for the Dragon Wall. And then we finally have the last distant point to close the loop. We had distance, we have... No, actually, I just realized, I think I'm talking about the total, not necessarily... I think we're still missing defense, because we have distance stance on both the male Corrin from this banner as well as Legendary Fae. We have the distant dart from Young Ike, and now we finally have distant ferocity, the attack plus attack version of every one of those. So if he's attacked, he can counterattack regardless of the distance, so he can attack range 1 or 2, and if during that combat he gets attack plus 5. We also have a upgrade to his preferred C, the Woeful Upheaval. At the start of turn, all foes take 7 damage, and then during combat, the opponent's first attack damage gets reduced by 3 times Circle. Circle being the difference between his and his foe's attack, and then another difference being between the foe's max HP and their current HP, with a maximum total of 30. So the maximum you can get is 10 points. This means that automatically with that 7, you're automatically getting a 21%. And then if there's a ally within... I believe within 2 spaces, and the foe is using range 2, so bow, dagger, tome, or staff, oh, okay, I get Savior. So he acts as a far save unit, in addition to having a massive amount. Now, granted, he won't gain any buffs from like what normal far save give, but being able to deal damage, get damage reduction, and have Savior a far save effect is very nice, especially since he can counter. And then we have his weapon, the Ghostly Lanterns. Once again, slaying, adaptive. During combat, if his HP is 25% or more, at the start of combat, if he has 25% or more HP, during combat he gets attack plus 6, the foe gets attack minus 6, the opponent gets gets both denied a follow-up and their guaranteed follow-up nullified. And then also, if at the start of combat with the same HP requirement, and the opponent has equipped a offensive special, during combat, if his resistance is at least 5 higher than the foe's, before the first attack occurs, the opponent gets +1 to their cooldown count. He also comes with Glimmer. Again, this isn't as impressive. The big thing is that Upheaval, the Woeful Upheaval, Distant Ferocity, and then just in general, his kit allows him to say no to follow-ups. In addition, he has 2 main sources of damage reduction, his B and C. So once again, in this case, I would actually not recommend a breath, but instead maybe recommend like bracing stance, just to give him a little bit more survivability. The other option could be fierce stance to give him more attack to try and keep that high off. And I did take a look at it. I do believe that his stats have been released. With his weapon, I think he hits the highest attack in the entire game, ignoring at base. So with the ability to get that boon, he is very dangerous. Hey, hold up, where's Mila? And we also have his duo skill. So himself and any allies within 5 rows and 5 rows horizontal and vertical get all their penalties removed, get what is essentially a lull skill, so foes' bonuses are nullified, and recover 30 HP. Wow, that is very powerful. And we do see in this portion, we do see his stats with 47 HP, 62 attack. I don't fully remember if this is necessarily the highest anymore, now that I think about it. I know that he has been mentioned to have the highest base attack, but he also has very good defensive abilities. So once again, what I would suggest for that skill is just in general some kind of stance. Perhaps something to keep his attack high. But that is a very wide range for what he's offering. And then we have our special story, the Divine Harvest. We also have Nils as our Tempest trial choice. So we have every single unit gainable as a dragon. So Nils is a green dragon infantry, voiced by, I believe it's Ayane Sakura. So Prince Eugen from Azur Lane, Nerl from Arknights, Yotsuba Nakano from the Quintessential Quintuplets, Yae Miko from Genshin Impact, and then also Ochako Uraraka from My Hero Academia. We have, as his Wandering Star form, we have a very nice cloak with kind of the ice cream motif, his Dragonstone encased in an ice cream cone. So we have, for his weapon, the Surprise Breath Plus. So this is going to be one of those cases where we're copy and pasting, kind of, where his weapon is actually very similar to what the Fire Festival Rinka had, where she has a grand total. It's just the same weapon where if at the start of battle, if unit's HP is 25% or more, it's attack res +5, and then the foe gets a debuff to their attack and res based on the start point at the start of battle res times 20%. So we are copy and pasting because he does have a very good set of res as a dragon. He is going to get really good debuffs. I personally have a +1 Rinka with a very, very high defensive score. So that is a very good thing. Sadly, he is a dancer, which means that he does come with the play ability. So sadly, his weapon does not sync with that as his first form did. We also have the I believe it's the Earth Storm Dance. If she dances or plays, the target gets +4 to both attack, the defense and res, and then also Hone Dragons. So this does make him a very good unit on this set. However, I do feel like this makes him very substandard in terms of what value he offers to the actual game, actual set. It's just another version for Nils, finally moving him off of the list that I made for units with no alts. I believe this is a 3-year thing. So once again, we move to the Spark, which is locked to Fate Pass. In terms of value, of course, you're going to go for the duo set. So Duma offers a very, very good weapon, a distant counter as well as a far save effect, and then two choices of actual damage reduction. Then next up would be of course female Corrin. Her stone has a very good effect on base. I'd say that without that duo, probably this version of the female Halloween Kamui would actually be a better choice. With negating Fang, with another finish, some level of reduction, as well as just reduction in general. I would say that the kind of like not so much dud is male Corrin. His weapon in and of itself is very good. I don't feel like there's anything they could have really done. Maybe instead of just having partial special fighter, they could have had the entire special fighter. But having the ability to have a distant counter type ability really helps. I hate to admit that Naga is not as impressive as she should be, just because of the fact that she is the 4-star demote. True, she does come with a rally up skill, and her weapon does deny follow-ups, but denying follow-ups in this kind of meta is a lot less impressive, especially since we are getting a null follow-up seal from the Tempest trial. So this means that we will have a harder time dealing with that kind of thing in general. I do think that it is worth pulling on this banner, even just to get Duma. Like I said, usually in general, it's usually the duo that has the most value, then the full kit 5-star, then the not full 5 kits, and then the demote last. Sadly, though, I feel like Nils really was put in here just because they could put him in here, because his kit is very, very lackluster. Like, he requires a massive amount of actual effort to really take him outside of the supporting role. And even then, it's kind of like, the only thing that I could really recommend if you're just planning on doing him as a base kit is putting into his seal I believe it's Firestorm, to make it so that his play gives +4 to all instead of just +4 to just defense and resistance. But anyways, that's what I personally think of this banner. I do think that it is a very nicely made banner, but for that's it for my thoughts on this one. Thank you very much for listening, and I will see you soon.